My girlfriend, who was in a company meeting, suddenly sent me a message. Already have a boyfriend. Don't bother me. Delete each other. Thanks. Seeing that message, I thought she'd stumbled across another one of those boyfriend ability tests. Playing along, I sent her a teasing reply, only to be met with a red exclamation mark. I immediately called her, only to discover I'd been blocked. That was it. I couldn't just sit still. I headed straight to her company. The moment I walked in, I saw my girlfriend standing next to her new assistant. I thought I was about to catch her in some cliched cheating scene. But the next second, my girlfriend shouted loudly, "Officer, arrest him. He's the one who stole my phone." "Honey, I have a last-minute meeting. I can't have dinner with you tonight. Sorry. I only got Zoe's WeChat message after I'd arrived at the Western restaurant. I was already used to her standing me up. She had been working on several big deals recently, super busy, which I could understand. Thinking it was dinner time, and she still had to attend a meeting, I figured she probably wouldn't have time to eat. So I decided to pack her favorite Wellington steak and bring it to her company. Before the steak was even ready, I got another WeChat from Zoe. I thought maybe her meeting got canceled and she could come eat after all. But when I opened it, it read, "Already have a boyfriend. Don't bother me. Delete each other. Thanks." Seeing that message, I could feel 3 imaginary black lines appear on my forehead. Wasn't she in a meeting? What game was she playing now? I guess she must have found yet another online test your boyfriend challenge. So I played along and sent her a reply. Then came a red exclamation mark. Was she actually serious? I called her, only to find out I had been blocked. Given her recent frequent overtime, plus an insider tip that she had a new assistant, a sense of crisis surged in me. With the packed steak in hand, I rushed to her company. At the front desk, just as I was about to walk in, a strange man stopped me. "Who are you?" The Moo Group isn't the kind of place any random person can just walk into. Everyone in the company knew me, so clearly he was new. I quickly figured he must be that new assistant. I was about to give him a subtle warning when I noticed he was holding Zoe's phone. "Why do you have Zoe Moo's phone?" Seeing that I recognized it, Gabriel also figured out who I was. With a smug, self-important look, he lifted his chin and said proudly, "I'm her boyfriend. Of course, her phone would be with me." I was just about to storm in and confront Zoe when I heard her voice from inside. "Gabriel, what the hell did you send from my phone?" Zoe came out, clearly furious. But when she saw me, she changed direction and jogged to my side. "Marco, what are you doing here?" Seeing my displeasure, she instantly understood, then turned to Gabriel and snapped, "Gabriel, who gave you the right to touch my phone?" From her attitude alone, I immediately knew Zoe and this restless new guy definitely had nothing going on. Gabriel was clearly stung by her furious expression. His body swayed slightly before he pulled Zoe's phone from his pocket and held out with both hands. His gaze was pitiful, with a faint trace of suggestive tension. Zoe swiftly snatched the phone from his hands, went straight to block list, and her face instantly darkened. It was the first time I had seen her like this, so I walked over in puzzlement to take a look. Well, besides me, there were several other male contacts in that block list. A closer look revealed they were all male CEOs or project managers from companies her firm worked with. "What gave you the right to touch my phone?" I remember leaving it on my desk to charge. Zoe's anger was so strong that she didn't bother controlling her volume. Leaders from various departments who had been packing up to leave work poked their heads out upon hearing her voice. At that volume, Gabriel flinched instinctively, his expression turning even more pitiful. "Zoe, I was just trying to help you." "Help me? You mean help me go bankrupt?" Zoe was livid, her hands trembling slightly as she looked at the list of blocked people. I knew how hard she had worked to get where she was. Building her own business from scratch hadn't been easy, and now several CEOs and project heads from partner companies had been blocked in one go. Just as I was about to step in and calm her down, my phone began ringing. Without exception, they were all people Zoe had blocked, but who still had my WeChat calling to ask what was going on. And yes, some even hinted at checking my phone too. In the business world, The words were polite, but I could hear the undertone of questioning. I shot Gabriel a sharp glare, then turned to Zoe and, still a bit annoyed, said, "Handle this immediately." I stepped aside to respond to my contacts. Thankfully, out of respect for the Marco family name, they weren't truly angry. Plus, Zoe's own competence and the company's overall strength spoke for themselves. Once they learned her phone had been misused by someone else, they were understanding. Some even, after hearing I had been blocked too, hesitantly warned me to keep an eye on Zoe's relationship with that man. After clearing things up with everyone, my eyes darkened. Although Zoe had been on my side the whole time, she still hadn't given me a reasonable explanation for today. I took a few deep breaths, forcing down the fire in my chest, and returned to the lobby. To my surprise, there were now 2 police officers in the lobby. Zoe was frowning, speaking to them angrily, while Gabriel was trembling, staring at her in disbelief. "Zoe, you called the police on me?" His voice shook. When Zoe didn't bother to respond, he turned to the 2 officers instead. In just 2 steps, he grabbed one officer's arm. "Officer, we're friends. I was just joking. We have a great relationship. You can't arrest me." The officer stepped back quickly, looking at him with a complicated expression. "Sir, this isn't something you can dismiss as a joke. You used this lady's phone without permission and caused her actual harm." The officer explained patiently. "We are not friends, and there's no such thing as joking here. He's just an employee of the company." Zoe said coldly, "Officers, please investigate. I suspect he came here to sabotage my company." Hearing that, Gabriel's face turned as white as paper. He bit his lower lip, looking tearfully at Zoe as if words were stuck in his throat. When he saw she wasn't paying him any attention, instead walking over to me to ask about my conversations with our contacts, he finally broke down. "Zoe, I just think you're not the same as before. Now that you have a boyfriend, you should keep your distance from the men in your contacts. I was only trying to help you." A perfectly timed tear slid down from the corner of his eye. Just one tear. Not enough to look pathetic, but enough to seem heartbreakingly sympathetic. Unfortunately for him, Zoe didn't even notice a performance. Still too angry. "My contacts are none of your business. And the first person you blocked was my boyfriend. You weren't trying to help me keep my distance from men. You were hoping I'd die alone." Still not satisfied, she jabbed a finger at one of the profile pictures in the block list. "This President Gene is the same age as my father. Does he need to be kept at a distance too? I'm your boss. You do what I tell you to do. If I don't tell you to do something, you don't do it. That's the rule. Do you not even have this basic level of professional conduct?" Then she turned to the officers. "Officers, my phone contains a lot of trade secrets. This brand new employee stole it, putting my company's assets at risk. I want a thorough investigation." I stood there in stunned silence. I had originally come here to catch her cheating, but instead, I ended up witnessing a self-deluded, pretentious coquette in action. Chapter 3. What I hadn't expected was that Zoe would actually call the police directly. That alone eased my concerns about their relationship quite a bit. Maybe my standing back next to Zoe triggered this man, because he suddenly broke free from the officers and rushed toward us, pointing at my nose as he questioned Zoe. "Then what about him? Why is he allowed in the office? Why do you have to distance yourself from me just because you have a boyfriend, yet protect him at every turn? Did you hit your head in a door or something?" Zoe said impatiently, "Can't you see he's my boyfriend? Don't you recognize the word husband I put in his contact name? Stop playing mind games here." Gabriel shrank back behind the officers after being yelled at, clearly spooked now. The police also seemed to understand the situation at this point, but the fact remained that Gabriel's actions had caused Zoe tangible losses. They first asked if the matter could be settled privately, but Zoe firmly refused. "No way. Sending that kind of message to my husband? What? So I end up single. Not happening." Because Zoe insisted on no reconciliation, Gabriel was taken away. Before leaving, the man pitifully tugged at the suit jacket he was wearing and asked Zoe, "Zoe, I'm cold. Can I borrow this jacket to wear outside?" Zoe glanced at it and said flatly, "It's not mine." At that moment, the design director who had been watching the whole scene, finally came out his office. "It's mine. It was just sitting on the chair next to President Mu. You must have picked it up by mistake. Better give it back to me. I'm cold, too." Gabriel's face froze. He yanked the jacket off in anger, threw it into the design director's arms, and, not forgetting to shoot me a vicious glare, left with the police. Seeing the resentful look he gave me as he left, I couldn't help but find it funny. What was this? A pretentious coquette trying to provoke me only to get himself sent to the police station? Later, Zoe told me that Gabriel was the son of her neighbor. 10 years ago, their whole family had moved up north and had only just returned recently. Upon coming back, they visited Zoe's family. The two families had been on good terms before, so they reconnected. When Zoe heard that Gabriel was still job hunting, she arranged a position for him at her company. Zoe had nearly forgotten he even existed. Who knew that on his very first day of work he'd pull something like this? I couldn't help but mutter, "What is this? Some childhood sweetheart drama again?" To my surprise, Zoe pretended to gag on the spot. I've never had such a manipulative, shameless childhood friend. Since we were kids, whenever he got into trouble, he'd act pitiful and then dump the blame on me. And in the end, he'd still put on that wrong look and say, "It's all my fault." After mimicking Gabriel's tone, Zoe gave a full-body shudder as if trying to shake off goosebumps. Anyway, I never want anything to do with him for the rest of my life. If it weren't for my dad insisting, I wouldn't have let him into the company at all. Apparently, even though Gabriel ended up at the police station, he wasn't actually punished. He went crying to Mr. Mu, Zoe's father, and after enduring her father's scolding, Zoe eventually chose to settle privately. That same night, he walked out of the station. I thought that after Zoe had made things so clear, he would finally take the hint and back off, especially since his little stunt was honestly too stupid to watch. But to my surprise, not long after, he added me on WeChat, through Zoe's own shared contact card, no less. As soon as I accepted, he sent me a photo. It was of a large round dining table with quite a few people seated around it. The only ones I recognized were Zoe's parents and Zoe herself. Zoe was sitting next to whoever was taking the picture, smiling as she placed food into their bowl, looking gentle and attentive. "Marco, you don't actually think Zoe likes you, do you? She's always liked me. Today is the day we're meeting each other's parents to officially discuss the wedding date. After what happened last time, I didn't believe a word this man said. If it hadn't been for me rushing over to verify things immediately, and Zoe calling the police right away, that previous incident would have left a permanent crack in our relationship. So this time, when I saw the photo, I didn't feel the same anger as before. Instead, I casually called Zoe. She didn't pick up right away, probably had to find a quiet spot, before finally answering. "Marco, what's up?" She sounded cheerful, like she was in a good mood. "Where are you?" Zoe paused for a moment. Since we trusted each other, I rarely asked her such direct questions. "At Baiwe, having dinner with my parents." "Gabriel's there too?" Both families are eating together today." Her tone was completely natural, with not a hint of guilt. I was silent for a moment, then said, "Check your WeChat." I sent her a screenshot of the photo, and message Gabriel had just sent me. Is he out of his mind? He's not even sitting next to me. My niece is the one next to me. Zoe was clearly annoyed. She told me to hang up and wait. Not long after, she sent me another screenshot, this time from her niece's WeChat moments. It had 2 photos. "Marco, you should come over. We need to clear this up today. Gabriel is a total lunatic." I hesitated. Wouldn't it be awkward if I showed up at a family gathering between your 2 families? What's awkward about it? My parents adore you. Besides, if we don't settle this face-to-face, Gabriel's constant interference is going to affect our relationship. By the end, she sounded flustered, but she still spoke with determination. "Yes, you have to come. I'll send the driver to pick you up." Thinking about what Zoe said, how we needed to clear this up once and for all, I changed clothes and headed out. Baiwa wasn't far from me. It took barely 20 minutes to get there. As soon as I arrived, I saw Zoe waiting for me at the door. She still looked upset. So I quickly went over and patted her shoulder reassuringly, but she still looked aggrieved. Good thing you came to ask me. If you pulled a stunt like those male leads in novels, silently walking away without saying a word, what would I have done? I rubbed my forehead. This was my fault. When we first got together, I worried she wouldn't be able to tell a pretentious coquette from a real friend. So I sent her loads of Jihu articles about them. Later, I realized she wasn't blind to it. She just didn't care about identifying them. Her whole mind was focused on making sure I never felt wronged, or else I might leave. After a comforting hug, Zoe led me into their private dining room. When we entered, the room was full of cheerful conversation. Seeing me, Mr. and Mrs. Moo lit up immediately, calling the waiter over to add a seat for me. "Marco, come sit next to Annie," Mrs. Moo said happily, having the waiter place a chair beside her, right next to Zoe. And indeed, on Zoe's other side sat a little girl, not even 10 years old. Next to the little girl was Gabriel. When he saw me walk in, Gabriel froze and his expression darkened. "Zoe, who is this? Why are you bringing an outsider to our family gathering?" A slightly older woman sitting beside Gabriel, presumably his mother, spoke up, her tone dripping with passive aggression. After hearing that, Zoe's mother's expression changed. She gently patted the back of my hand to reassure me, then smiled and said, "He's not an outsider. This is my son-in-law, Marco." "Oh, so he's Zoe's boyfriend." The woman gave a strained laugh, then continued, "Young man, you're really strict. Zoe can't even have dinner with her parents without you chasing after her." In just one sentence, she'd painted me as an unreasonable boyfriend who tried to control his girlfriend. Normally I'd respect my elders, but some elders simply don't deserve that respect. "Auntie, you misunderstand. Isn't it your son who told me that tonight was about discussing my girlfriend's marriage with him? I couldn't just let my girlfriend be taken advantage of, could I? So I came to check things out." I smiled brightly, almost challengingly, and even raised an eyebrow at Gabriel. Before coming in, Zoe had told me, "If you're wrong, just fight back. Don't you dare swallow it." Hearing what I said, Mr. and Mrs. Moo both turned to Gabriel in surprise. What marriage discussion? The moment I said those words, Gabriel's expression shifted to panic, and he even knocked over his water glass. What marriage? I don't know anything about that." Although he denied it, his nervous demeanor made his guilt obvious. Mrs. Moo's face hardened. "Gabriel, Zoe and Marco's marriage is our business. We don't need you concerning yourself with it." "Auntie, I really don't know what Mr. Marco is talking about," Gabriel said quickly, standing up in a rush. But his nervousness soon shifted into feigned grievance. He lowered his head slightly, his voice trembling as though he could barely hold back tears. "Auntie, I know last time I meant well but messed things up, so Mr. Marco has a bias against me. But does he really have to slander me like this?" He even threw in a couple of fake sobs for good measure. "That's right. Didn't we already clear up last time's misunderstanding?" Gabriel's mother quickly pulled him into her arms, glaring fiercely at me. Gabriel was only worried that Zoe didn't know how to keep her distance from other men and might upset her boyfriend. That's why he acted that way. Then she delivered the final blow, her eyes sharp. "Mr. Marco, it's bad enough that you showed up uninvited, but to target our Gabriel like this?" Gabriel grew up with Zoe. If he truly wanted to take her from you, do you really think you'd stand a chance? I was momentarily speechless. I had already suspected that Gabriel's mother wasn't exactly a reasonable person, but I hadn't expected her to actually say something like that. The one who reacted most strongly, however, was Zoe. She practically jumped to her feet, stepping in front of me. "Aunt Han, Marco didn't show up uninvited. He's my boyfriend. I told him to come. And as for me and Gabriel, there has never been anything between us. I have never liked him, and there has never been any place for Gabriel in my relationship with my boyfriend." Her words left the other side with no face to save. Gabriel's entire family's expressions darkened. From his mother's arms, Gabriel lifted his head to glance at Zoe, a glance that was pure emotional theater, aggrieved yet enduring, like some poor soul abandoned by the one they loved. The atmosphere in the private room grew even more tense. "What is this? We're supposed to be having a nice meal together. So why all the arguing?" Gabriel's father quickly stood up and pushed both Gabriel and his wife back into their seats. Since we're all gathered here, let's keep things cheerful. No need to make it unpleasant, right? He said, raising his glass to toast Mr. Moo. Mr. Moo hadn't spoken this whole time, but his expression clearly showed he wasn't happy either. Still, he clinked glasses out of politeness. Given the situation, Zoe and I decided not to push it any further. She had already made things very clear. But just because we chose to let it go didn't mean they would. The earlier tension had already made the meal awkward, and the only person at the table truly enjoying herself was Zoe's little niece sitting beside her. Just as the atmosphere was starting to ease a little, Gabriel's mother suddenly chuckled. Time really flies. Zoe and Gabriel have grown up so much. I still remember how they used to play together as kids. Hearing about the children's younger days, even Mr. and Mrs. Moo's expressions softened a bit, and they couldn't help sighing over how fast time passed. But then the woman added, I still remember back then the two of them even had a childhood engagement. Zoe always said she'd marry Gabriel when she grew up and be his wife. After saying that, she suddenly acted as though she realized she might have said something inappropriate. Turning to me with a smile, Mr. Marco, don't take it the wrong way. I was just remembering the kid's childhood. People don't do those kinds of childhood pacts anymore, and we all know that. It won't affect you too. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. She said it wouldn't affect us, yet kept bringing up the so-called childhood engagement. Zoe instantly bristled. Auntie, you must be mistaken. I never said I wanted to marry him. You were always saying Gabriel was weak and needed me to protect him. Honestly, how ridiculous is that, asking a girl to protect a grown man? At that, Zoe seemed to remember another grievance. And because of that, all the treats my parents gave me as a child ended up being taken by you for Gabriel. I almost burst out laughing while across the table. Gabriel's mother's smile froze completely. It took her a moment to react, and she was just about to speak when Zoe's mother cut in. Oh, about that childhood pact. There was indeed some talk. Zoe whipped her head around to stare at her own mother in disbelief. Mom, what are you talking about? But Mrs. Moo didn't look at her, instead continuing with a polite smile. Back then, it was always your family saying the two kids were well matched and could have a childhood engagement. We never agreed to it. Hearing that, Zoe nodded repeatedly and turned to look at me. Marco, I told you, I have nothing to do with him. At her words, Gabriel's tears began streaming down his face. He looked at Mrs. Moo. Auntie, do you not like me anymore? You used to say you liked me very much, that you'd be happy for me to be your son-in-law. So, after all that talk about not affecting Zoe's relationship with me, now he was declaring he wanted to be her husband. This man was truly shameless. Mrs. Moo kept smiling. She took a sip of water, then pulled my hand into hers. I did say that, but that was only what I wanted. It doesn't mean Zoe wanted it. Now that Zoe has chosen Marco, my son-in-law is Marco. Her words landed like a slap across the faces of Gabriel's whole family. Gabriel's parents looked resentful and seemed ready to argue again, but Mr. Moo spoke up. Gabriel, sister-in-law, feelings between the children aren't something we parents should interfere in. Zoe and Marco are doing well, and we like Marco very much. Then he glanced at Gabriel. Gabriel, we watched you grow up. You're a good young man, but you're not suited for Zoe. I'll introduce you to someone better in the future. He raised his glass and drank in front of Gabriel's father. Gabriel's father had no choice but to agree and toast back. It was obvious he didn't dare offend Zoe's father. Even Gabriel's mother didn't dare keep pushing, forcing a polite smile as she sat back down. But Gabriel's large, watery eyes stayed fixed on Zoe as he asked, Zoe, do you really not like me? I don't believe it. Zoe was dumbfounded. Of course I don't like you. What's there not to believe? If you didn't like me, why did you always help me when we were kids? In elementary school, when that chubby boy at our desk bullied me, you beat him up for me. That's because if I didn't help you, you'd go home and cry to your mother, saying I stood by and watched you get bullied. Then your mother would come to my mother to nag her, and my mother would scold me. Do you know how much it hurt when that chubby boy hit people? I didn't want to fight him at all. Zoe said angrily. Gabriel hadn't expected that. Staring at her in disbelief, still unwilling to give up, he pressed on. Then what about in 7th grade when a girl gave me a love letter and you beat her up? I turned to Zoe in surprise, but she quickly grabbed my hand and said even more furiously, "You rejected that girl and told her you liked me, so she came to pick a fight with me." I didn't want to fight her. She broke one of my ribs. Well, honestly, even I felt embarrassed for Gabriel at that point. Yet he still wouldn't give up. Then why, when I came back this time, did you immediately arrange for me to join your company and make me your assistant? I heard I'm the only parachuted assistant in the whole company. Zoe pressed a hand to her forehead. That's because you went to my dad saying you hadn't found a suitable job yet. So my dad, being kind, let you join my company. And you weren't my assistant. You were the assistant to the chief assistant. It was a cushy position meant to keep you from interfering with my work. And yet you nearly made me lose several clients. Her anger grew with every sentence until she finally said, "Gabriel, can you please just get out of my life?" Gabriel ran out with his face covered. After the meal, I looked at Mr. and Mrs. Moo a little awkwardly. "Uncle, Auntie, I'm sorry. I ruined your dinner." But Mrs. Moo only shook her head. "It's fine. In fact, I should thank you for letting us see that boy's true colors. He used to be such a good kid. How did he turn out like this?" Zoe muttered under her breath beside me, "He was never that good." I couldn't help but chuckle. Once I confirmed that Mr. and Mrs. Moo weren't upset about today, I felt much more at ease. After that, I didn't see Gabriel for quite a while, but his updates popped up in my WeChat moments constantly, full of melancholy sentimental quotes that were so saccharine they made my teeth ache. Sometimes he would even post childhood photos of himself with Zoe, claiming he was reminiscing about the past. I saved the photos, cropping out everything but Zoe. She was indeed adorable as a child, nothing like the sharp, decisive woman she was now. I knew all of this was aimed at me, but since I didn't take the bait, he had no way to escalate things. Unexpectedly, not long after, he became a minor internet celebrity. Thanks to his good looks and ability to sing love songs, he gained a small following online. Now his WeChat updates alternated between sentimental musings and clips from his live streams, along with fans' words of encouragement. It seemed like he was finally ready to focus on building a career, which both Zoe and I were relieved to see. After his last stunt, Zoe's parents decided our wedding should be arranged sooner, so that no random stray cats and dogs could try to squeeze their way in. My parents were very happy with Zoe, so they had no objections. With Zoe's urging, we set our engagement date incredibly quickly. Everyone was busy with preparations, except me, who was mostly concerned with whether the food at the engagement banquet would be good. Everything was going smoothly, until a few days before the engagement when the internet exploded with a rumor that the CEO of a listed company had abandoned her childhood sweetheart boyfriend for a mistress and was getting engaged. My name and Zoe's were right there in bold, front and center. Our photos were plastered all over the internet. These days, society's disgust toward homewreckers is extreme, especially toward someone who, according to the rumors, knew she was a mistress and still went through with it. I was being cursed out especially viciously. Even my cringe-worthy emo teenage social media posts were dug up and used against me. I was stunned. When Zoe found out, she called me immediately. "Marco, don't worry. I'll handle this. It won't affect our engagement. Don't let the online comments get to you." I knew she was worried about me, so I told her not to worry, but I also began looking into it myself. The so-called childhood sweetheart was obviously Gabriel. So had he been the one spreading rumors online? But after checking, I realized the situation was more complicated. Gabriel was now a small but popular influencer. He hadn't directly claimed to be Zoe's childhood sweetheart boyfriend. Instead, during a live stream the previous night, he made several accidental slip-ups, his eyes turning red. Viewers noticed and began asking what was wrong. He brushed away a tear, trying to look strong. "It's nothing, just that my ex-girlfriend is getting engaged soon. Hurts a little, but it's okay. Babies, I'll get stronger." Then he started singing a breakup song dripping with implication. The things I Mississippi, that single line, "My ex-girlfriend is getting engaged soon," was immediately taken by netizens to mean that a cheating mistress was involved. And how could his fans stand to see their idol wronged? They launched a justice mission to find the so-called cheating mistress and her fiancé. Although Gabriel never named names, his fans quickly pieced together Zoe's identity from his past WeChat updates and other social media hints. And of course, they found me too. What began as a rumor within his fan base soon spread widely when people learned Zoe was the CEO of a listed company. The attention from the general public caused her company's stock price to drop sharply. The problem was Gabriel had never explicitly defamed us. Every word he said was vague, never pointing directly at us. It was his fans who did all the digging. And whenever they got too aggressive, he would wipe away a tear and say, "Forget it. Don't go disturbing other people's lives." On the surface, it all had nothing to do with him, which meant taking legal action against him would be extremely difficult. This time, the problem really wasn't going to be easy to solve. Chapter 8. Zoe first used the company's official account to post a clarification statement, but it had no effect at all. Netizens only believe what they want to believe. Lately, watching Zoe so stressed, juggling the company crisis while still taking the time to check on me and keep me company, made my heart ache. She had worked so hard to build her company, and now because of this mess, it was being dragged through the mud. I knew she must be feeling awful inside, but soon, things took a turn for the better. Someone leaked a video of that dinner we had at Bayou's private room. The footage was shaky, but you could still clearly make out who was speaking. In the video, Zoe very clearly stated she had never liked Gabriel. Meanwhile, Gabriel and his mother's pretentious, manipulative remarks disgusted a large portion of viewers, especially the part where Gabriel tearfully questioned why Zoe had helped him as a child and Zoe's blunt rebuttals. Overnight, the label of delusional mediocre man was plastered all over him again. Wait, so there was never any mistress at all? This was all just in this gross guy's imagination. Oh my God, President Moo's childhood sounds so miserable. This mother-son duo really did exploit her since she was a kid. President Moo is like the ultimate walking bad luck magnet. Damn it, I even cried for Gabriel and cursed out Moo and her boyfriend before. You can tell from the video that the delusional guy kept provoking her boyfriend, calling a family dinner a wedding discussion. How shameless can you get? In no time, Gabriel became public enemy number one online. His comment sections were completely overrun. Panicked, he deleted several of his tragic videos and even set his comments to private. I hadn't expected anyone to have recorded that day, so I immediately called Zoe to ask what was going on. On the other end of the line, she laughed with a hint of pride. We have my niece to thank for that. The niece who was sitting next to you that day. Because of Gabriel's family, I hadn't even gotten a proper chance to talk to her. Yep, she said. The moment you walked into the room and saw the Han family's faces change, she knew they were going to stir trouble. Out of habit, she started recording. Didn't expect it would actually come in handy. I was speechless for a moment before saying, "She's just a kid. How is she that sharp?" Zoe disagreed. Never underestimate children. They're smarter than you think. We owe her for helping us turn this around. With public opinion shifting, Gabriel's side couldn't hold on anymore. He tried to get people to remove the trending searches, but the buzz around a pretentious coquette getting exposed was too strong to suppress. I heard his father personally went to Zoe's house to apologize, but was thrown out by Mr. Moo. Pointing right at him, Mr. Moo yelled, "Han, do you take me for a fool? Because of our old friendship, you said you want to come back and develop your career, and I helped you. And this is how your family treats my daughter." Gabriel's father tried to explain, but all he got in return was a single word: "Get out." Unexpectedly, when he ran out of options, Gabriel came to find me instead. He asked to meet at a cafe. Thinking it was better to settle this once and for all, I went. In the cafe, the man looked haggard. "About the stuff online, I'm sorry. I'm here to apologize," he said the moment I sat down. Even standing to bow to me, his eyes were slightly red, as if he were truly remorseful. I just smiled without replying. Without my response, he stood there awkwardly for a moment before sitting back down. Today I wanted to apologize, but also, I just don't want you to be deceived. Do you really believe everything Zoe said, that there's nothing between us? As he spoke, He pulled out a stack of photos, ones I had never seen before. In them, 2 children were holding hands, smiling brightly at the camera. In one photo, the little girl was even kissing the little boy on the cheek, both of them grinning. I never released these photos because I didn't want to hurt you, but you can see for yourself how close we were in them. She just refuses to admit it now. Gabriel's expression was full of sadness and loss. I flipped through every single photo, each one making me angrier than the last. They were all intimate childhood shots of 2 of them, and I finally slammed the stack down on the table. Gabriel, do you take me for an idiot? He looked up at me in shock, clearly not expecting me to say that. You're trying to use photos taken when you were kids to drive a wedge between us? You were what, a few years old? What could you possibly have understood back then? I stared at him in disbelief. But we were very close growing up. We were childhood sweethearts. That's completely different from her saying she never liked me. Don't you think she's lying to you? He looked at me with a hate to see you fooled expression. I'm doing this for you. I actually laughed, more in anger than amusement. Gabriel cut the transparent little schemes. Will you? I pointed to a girl sitting at the next table. She was holding her phone up as if taking selfies, but her eyes were locked on us. Let me guess. You've had a bad run online lately. So you came to me to expose my girlfriend's lies, hoping I'd join you in righteous outrage. Meanwhile, your friend here would record the whole thing. Then you could post it online and pin everything on Zoe, claiming we were both deceived by her. Am I right? Gabriel's eyes went wide. How do I know? I snorted. If you use even half a brain, you wouldn't come up with something this stupid. Those photos mean nothing to me. Want to see some of my childhood photos with the girl next door? I walked over to the girl next to us. By now, she was sweating bullets. I glanced at her phone. Sure enough, she was live streaming. The comment feed was already flooded with people blasting Gabriel for being sneaky and praising me for being sharp. Damn, I didn't get it first, but Gabriel really had this in mind. Sorry, I honestly thought Gabriel was trying to help Marco at first. How is Gabriel still out here stirring trouble? Never seen anyone so shameless. The girl couldn't hold herself back anymore when she saw the comments and quickly ended the live stream. Just then, the cafe doors burst open, and Zoe came rushing in. She grabbed me into her arms. Don't you dare believe him. Those photos were all taken because his mother coaxed me into it. I was too young to understand anything. She spoke so fast she was tripping over her words, probably because she'd seen the live stream but hadn't gotten to the later part. I nodded and kissed her on the lips. Relax. I never believed him in the first place. Zoe's tense expression melted into a sweet smile. But when she turned and saw Gabriel, her face darkened again. Gabriel, if you dare try to come between us again, don't blame the Moo family for showing no mercy. Without giving him another glance, she pulled me toward the door, ignoring his tearful protests. After that, Zoe had the company issue another statement, this time laying out Gabriel's actions in full with zero courtesy. It even included the incident where he stole her phone and ended up at the police station. Regarding that, Mr. Moo personally apologized to me, explaining that he'd taken a call from Gabriel's family at the time and thought Gabriel had genuinely meant to help, only to have made a mistake and been sent to the station by Zoe. That was why he'd asked Zoe to settle privately and have him released. Chapter 9, in the end. This normally serious father looked slightly awkward as he said, Marco, don't worry. You're the son-in-law our Moo family has chosen. We won't let anyone bully you. I will never have anything to do with Gabriel's family again. Then, as if worried, he added, from now on, if you ever feel wronged, speak up like you did this time. We'll stand up for you. Don't bottle it up until your heart's broken and you run off. Zoe finding the right partner wasn't easy. Our engagement day arrived quickly. Since it was only an engagement, we didn't invite many guests, just a few tables of close family and friends. But on the way to the hotel with my parents, I was suddenly accidentally hit by someone. The person who staged the accident was none other than Gabriel, the same Gabriel who had been roasted online recently. In the end, he had posted a barefaced apology video, which I didn't even watch. From what I heard, people said his apology was pure White Lotus behavior, pretending to be innocent, never acknowledging his mistakes, and shifting all the blame to Zoe, claiming she had misled him. He was scolded so badly that he quit the internet entirely. I never expected him to suddenly appear in front of my car. When I got out, I saw Gabriel lying on the ground. His face was pale, his whole appearance haggard. When he saw me, it was like he'd spotted his greatest enemy. Still, he gritted his teeth and forced down his anger. "Marco, can't you just let my family go?" I was confused. "Let who go?" "Don't play dumb. Because of you, the Move family is targeting us at every turn. Our business is on the verge of collapse. Because of you, we're almost bankrupt. How can you be so heartless?" He cried hard this time. Gone was his delicate pearly tears act. Now his crying was messy, with snot and tears running down his face. It drew stares from the people around us, and some even took out their phones to film. From the scene, it almost looked like I had just hit him with my car. I asked coldly, "Are you getting up or not?" "Not unless you make the Move family leave us alone and have Zoe invest in our family. Otherwise, I'm not getting up, and you can forget about getting engaged today." At least this time, he wasn't acting like some love-struck fool. His mind was solely on saving his family. But I had no idea about any so-called Move family targeting the Hahn family, and I'd never involved myself in such matters. As I frowned and prepared to call Zoe, my father stepped out of the car. "Dad, why'd you get out?" The old man shook his head and walked over to Gabriel, his face still wearing a kind smile, though the words he spoke were anything but soft. "Young man, your Hahn family's bankruptcy has nothing to do with the Move family." Gabriel stared at him in surprise, clearly unsure of who he was. My father went on, still smiling. "Back when your Hahn family moved north, things were okay for the first couple of years. But later, due to your father's poor management, you lost everything. You've been barely holding on for years, and now you finally reached the end of the rope. That's why you came back here. After returning, in order to make a comeback, you set your sights on the Move family. And the Move family, out of consideration for old ties, gave you plenty of help. But you got greedy. So you fixed your eyes on Zoe, and even knowing she was with my son, you still tried at every turn to seduce her and wreck their relationship. It's not true, it's not true. I really like Zoe. We've been childhood sweethearts since we were little," Gabriel screamed, shaking his head, panic filling his eyes. But my father didn't stop. In fact, he leaned in even further. "You'd better get out of the way right now. Otherwise, if that Wong family from the Northeast, the one you conned, finds out where you are, do you think they'll come looking? And tell me, do you think there's anyone left who would protect the Hahn family?" My dad was an old fox in the business world, and the pressure in his tone was something a young punk like Gabriel couldn't withstand. He practically crawled backward in a panic, blurting, "Don't tell them! Don't tell them!" "Then you'd better not make my son late for his engagement ceremony," my father said coolly. With that, he pulled me back into the car. Once inside, I asked him curiously how he knew all about their situation. He snorted. "My son's been bullied. What, you think I wouldn't react?" Then he shot me a look of reproach. "In the future, you come to me sooner about these things." Only after I promised several times did he explain. Back when the online scandal was at its peak, instead of rushing to put the fire online, he'd gone to investigate the Hahn family's background. That's when he discovered that the Hahn family had gone bankrupt years ago up north, making plenty of enemies, biggest among them the Wong family. The staged accident was dealt with easily, and our engagement ceremony went smoothly. But even after we were officially engaged, Zoe stayed jumpy, feeling that until we were married, she couldn't relax. She'd been reading a lot of Regretful Husband web novels lately, and every few days she dragged me to get a checkup, as if she were afraid I'd suddenly be diagnosed with some terminal illness like the male leads in those tragic romance stories. I smacked her lightly on the head. "Can you not jinx me like that?" Zoe rubbed her head sheepishly. "Okay, I'll think good thoughts. My husband will live a long, healthy life." The next time I saw Gabriel was at a business reception. Zoe was busy talking with a few company presidents about business matters. So I wandered off to find somewhere to sit. I hadn't expected to run into Gabriel. He was dressed sharply, but you could still see the weariness in his face. When he saw me, he froze. I caught the flash of anger in his eyes. But this time, he didn't dare come over to provoke me. In fact, the moment I sat down across from him, he got flustered and began to get up to leave. I was just starting to wonder about his behavior when I saw a bald man, maybe in his 50s, walking toward him. The instant Gabriel spotted him, he went into visible panic. Even though he tried to be careful, the man still grabbed him hard by the arm and dragged him aside. "That's someone from the Wong family," Zoe's voice said from beside me. I hadn't even noticed her come over. Remembering what my father had told me before about the Wongs, it seemed they had indeed come for him. Who knew how much my father had helped make that happen? People, I thought, really shouldn't get greedy. Take me, for example. I've never been greedy. I don't even mind that Zoe is a silly girl who loves reading those over-the-top, abusive romance novels.